All right. So let's get into the Lakers schedule. And for me, I wanted to see what your thoughts are on, I guess, technically, what's the softest part of the schedule or the easiest part, and then what's the hardest part of the schedule in your eyes?
Sorry, just looking at it. So yeah, it says going back, it says yeah. So pretty much the game will be streamed exclusively on YouTube, but it does say and YouTube TV, I guess.
Okay.
But so if you don't have a YouTube TV, I guess you can watch it on YouTube. That is
Yeah.
so
So
funny.
it's so random, right? It's just like they can actually just stream it on the platform itself. And so I guess that's one way to get it for free.
Yep. But anywho, yeah, I look. So with the schedule, you play we know what teams you're going to play. You're going to play the same exact teams as anyone else. I think I talked about it on the last show. Each conference, you're going to play 2 times against the other conference, and then you're going to play most teams in your conference 4 times. There's going to be a couple of threes there. There's going to be a couple, maybe even 5s potentially with the NBA Cup. But it's always interesting to see like where those teams and games land. We always know that teams are going to have long road trips. You want to see where that is during the year. There's a spot other than I'll let you get into kind of the beginning of the season. But I do see a nice like I wish it was like a little bit later in maybe December, January for the Lakers, but there's like about a week off in November or so. And basically, I'm sorry, I'm looking at it here. If I could find it really quick, where they play, I think they play like just Utah. Where the heck is it? Oh yeah. So they play like the 15th at Milwaukee, right? And then they play the 18th home against Utah, and then they don't play till the 23rd at Utah. So it's kind of like almost like a bye week, right? And so what I feel is like those first, what is it, about 14, 15 games. If you're the Lakers, you could just kind of go all out because after that you're going to get a nice rest. So that's something I'm looking at. You go 10-4, 11-4 in those 14, 15 games, right? And you get yourself a nice break before Thanksgiving, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, I totally noticed that in the schedule where I was like, it's almost like you said, it's almost like a bye. So they're essentially only having one game in between the 15th and the 23rd. So that's
It's home against Utah.
Yeah, and then you get a back-to-back Utah too. So it's basically you're the home, and then you don't play Utah until 5 days later. So that is pretty solid as far as when you think about they don't really get breaks unless it's the All-Star break. So that's a good one for them. And for me, thinking about the softest part of the schedule is those first 16 games. Essentially, they have only 7 playoff teams from last year in those 16 games, and they get that essential bye week at the end of that 16. So I think, like you said, if they can start off strong, like a solid record, like a 12-4, 13-3, like really, really, really strong kind of like start. Like I don't want you to say, I know what you're saying. 8-8, like no 500 and stuff like that. We do not need that type of start. So a solid 12-4 type of start would mean he would pay big dividends as far as what their seed will be throughout the Western Conference.
Yeah, I don't want to hear like a 7-9, and the talk is like, hey, this like week break is coming at the right time, and get their minds right, come back fresh, ready to go. No. It is about 16 games at the worst. Get me 10-6. I know it's easier said than done. They do play some teams that are not in the playoffs. They do play some tough opponents. Just kind of looking here, right? Just going to throw some things out there. At OKC is going to be tough. Warriors, Minnesota, who beat them soundly in the playoffs. San Antonio. At Portland, it's just historically been tough. So it's not going to be easy, but if there was a softer part of the schedule right before a long kind of random break, I think a quick start is much needed for the Lakers if you want to try to get a top seed, which we know what that means.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in order to get a top seed, we know how many games you have to actually win. You know, OKC is going to be there with close to 60 wins almost every season, seems like, barring injury. So you got to be up there with them, and you got to be in the 50 plus win range in order to get that top four. I mean, essentially, we just need a top 6 seed, but you want to try to get as high as possible as you can. Well, I mean, that's what we got last year. We got a 3 seed. You know what that means, Eric?
You know what that means. We got a 3 seed. We got what we wanted. What is it? 77 out of 79 years now.
That stat continued because OKC obviously won. So 77 out of 79. So the top 3 seed is obviously super important to have in order to win a championship.
Yep, no doubt. And so a quick start means the world. I think for a team like the Lakers, means the world for a lot of teams. But you know, when you could kind of solidify a spot, kind of getting towards the end of the year, it does play dividends. We saw this team get, you know, a little bit gassed in the playoffs the first round, and so it could have been part of the reason is just really having to play almost all 82, right? And so I think a quick start will avoid that.